Hey y'all, today we are going to look at how to change linear equations from standard form to slope intercept form. If you remember from previous videos and your previous lessons in class, slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Remember the m stands for the slope and the b stands for the y-intercept, or where the line crosses the y-axis. Also remember that the coefficient of y must be positive 1 in slope-intercept form, meaning there should be nothing in front of the y. No 2, no negative sign, nothing. All right, so let's look at some examples. All right, let's look at example 1. We have to get y by itself. So I look and that 2 is connected to the y, so I need to get rid of the 4x. How do I get rid of the 4x? I do the opposite of plus 4x or positive 4x. The opposite of that would be to subtract 4x. Remember, what I do to one side of the equation, I must do to the other. All right, now if I have 4x's and I take 4x's away, I'm left with nothing. I bring down my 2y because I'm doing nothing to that side, and then I'm left with 12 minus 4x. But if you remember from previous lessons, 12 and 4x, or negative 4x, are not like terms. We can multiply them and divide them, but we cannot add or subtract them. So I'm simply going to bring down the minus 4x, and I'm going to bring down the 12. And since that 12 is positive, I'm going to put a plus sign in between. You may ask, why did I bring down the negative 4 first? And the reason is because I want it in the form of y equals mx plus b. Now, if you notice, I still have something on that y. What is it that I have on that y, you may ask? Well, it's a 2. That means 2 times y. So let's do the opposite to get y by itself. The opposite of 2 times y, we're going to divide by 2. Here, this is the part where you have to remember that I'm going to do this to every term in the problem. I'm going to divide everything by 2. All right, so 2y divided by 2 leaves me with 1y. Negative 4x divided by 2, a negative divided by a positive is a negative. 4x's divided into 2 groups would give me 2 x's in each group. And then 12 divided by 2, if I split 12 into 2 equal groups, I get 6 and it's positive. So now my equation is in the form of y equals mx plus b, slope-intercept form. If I asked you to identify the slope, I would hope that you would tell me the slope is negative 2, so the line would be going up to the left. The rise would be 2, and the run would be 1 because 2 is a whole number, and in order to find the rise over the run, it needs to be a fraction. And so to make 2 a fraction, I put it over 1. And if I were to ask you where this line would cross the y-axis, I would hope that you would tell me that this line would cross the y-axis at positive 6. All right, let's look at example 2. Here again, it's in standard form, ax plus by equals c, but I need it to be in y equals mx plus b. So if you look up here, y's by itself, I need to get y by itself. So what do I need to get rid of first? It's going to be this 3x. The opposite of plus 3x is minus 3x. So what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. If I have 3 x's and I take 3 x's away, I'm left with no x's on this side. I'm doing nothing to the negative 4y, so I'm simply going to bring it down. And then here, if you remember, negative 16 and negative 3x are not like terms. Again, I can multiply and divide them, but I may not add or subtract them. So I'm simply going to bring them down. Remember also, I'm going to bring down the variable x first, because that's what comes first in slope-intercept form. And I'm going to remember to bring that negative sign with the 16. Now, you could put plus negative 16 or minus 16. Remember, you learned in 7th grade that adding a negative is the same thing as subtracting a positive. So if I were to write this or this, they mean the same thing. So now, do I have it in slope-intercept form? No. Y is not by itself. I can only have a coefficient of positive 1, and right now I have a coefficient of negative 4. So to get a coefficient of positive 1, I'm going to divide by negative 4. Remember, whatever I do to the left side, I have to do to every term in the problem. So I'm going to divide everything by negative 4. Negative 4y divided by negative 4 is simply going to leave me with 1y. Now here comes the tricky part. A negative divided by a negative is a, I hope you filled in the blank and said positive, and then I'm left with 3 divided by 4. Well, I know that 3 divided by 4 is going to give me a decimal. But in slope intercept form, I don't write the slope in decimals because then I can't see the rise over the run. I leave it in fraction form. So I can simply just write 3/4 x. That means I'm going to rise 3, I'm going to run 4, and it's positive, so it's going to go up to the right. Then I look here, and a negative divided by negative is a positive, so I'm going to put a plus sign. And 16 divided by 4 is 4, meaning that this line will cross the y-axis at positive 4. All right, so now let's go on to example 3. All right, example 3 is 7x minus 2y equals 5. Remember, I need to have this in y equals mx plus b form, and I don't. So I'm going to get rid of the 7x first because I need to get that y by itself. The opposite of plus 7x is minus 7x. What I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other. Sorry, it's kind of hard to hold my phone and write at the same time. All right, if I have 7x's and I take 7x's away, I'm left with nothing. I bring down my negative 2y because I'm doing nothing to it. And then, just like I said, the last two examples, 5 and negative 7x are not like terms. I cannot subtract them or add them. I'm going to simply bring them down, but I'm going to bring down the term that has the variable x first because that is the form I need it in. Now, once again, y is not by itself. So I'm going to divide by negative 2. What I do there, I do to every term in the problem. Now guys, this isn't a unique problem. You will see problems like this. So let's go through. Okay, negative 2y divided by negative 2 is going to leave me with y. Negative divided by negative is a positive, but what's 7 divided by 2? I know that 7 is an odd number, and if I split it into 2 equal groups, I'm going to come out with a decimal. Again, remember, in slope intercept form, we don't want decimals. We want it in fraction form so that we can graph it. We can know how much to rise and how much to run. So I'm simply going to leave this as 7/2 x. Yes, looks funny, but it is perfectly fine. Now here's the part that looks weird. All right, I have a positive divided by a negative, and we all know that that's a negative. And then I have 5 divided by 2. So I am taking 5 and splitting it into 2 equal pieces. Again, I know that's going to give me a decimal, so I can leave it in fraction form as well. Or I can change the b into a decimal. If I have $5 and I split it among 2 friends, I know that each friend gets $2.50, so that's 2.5. So this equation right here is still going to be a linear equation, but it is not going to cross the y-axis at a whole number. It's going to cross between the 2 and the 3. So that is, something that's a little different. I don't know if you've seen a problem like that, but you will encounter that more than likely on the LEAP test. There's another example that I didn't put down here. Let me come up with it. Something that I wanted you to see. We'll just do 2x minus y equals 10. All right, so we know we need to get this in y equals mx plus b form. So let's get x by itself. Y by itself. So I have to get rid of the 2x. I do that by subtracting 2x from both sides. All right, 2x minus 2x is 0. Bring down my negative y. I can't subtract these two, so I bring down negative 2x and my 10. Now, that looks like slope intercept form, but if you remember back to the beginning, it says that the coefficient of y must be positive 1 in slope intercept form. Is the coefficient of y positive 1? No, it's negative 1. So how can I make that positive? There's two things. I can multiply everything by -1, or I can divide everything by -1. It doesn't matter. You'll come out with the same answer either way. So negative y divided by -1, negative divided by negative is a positive, and y divided by 1 is just y. And then a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 2x divided by 1 is 2x. And then a positive divided by a negative is a negative. 10 divided by 1 is 10. So negative y equals negative 2x plus 10 becomes y equals 2x minus 10 in slope-intercept form. This is going to have a slope of 2, meaning it's going to rise 2, run 1, rise 2, run 1, rise 2, run 1. And it's going to be positive, so it's going to go up to the right. And it's going to cross the y-axis at -10. So if I were to draw a coordinate grid, it would cross down here, but it would be a line like this. All right, so in summary, remember that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Remember that the coefficient of y must be +1 in slope-intercept form. I know I'm speaking really fast. I hope you understood. If not, please leave a comment to ask me a question or send me an email. Talk to you soon.